This is Bearwood Road, one of the main shopping precincts in Sandwell. It's chock-a-block with hot food takeaways in both directions. 5 of them within a 100-meter stretch right here. That makes it a very typical high street for 21st century Britain. According to official figures, adults in Britain now get about 25% of their calories from foods eaten outside the home. That's probably an underestimate. Takeaways are an important component in eating out, but difficult to measure, in part because of restaurants like this. They offer a sit-down service, but also a takeaway service for those who want to eat on the street. When you get such a concentration of takeaways, they create a number of issues, environmental issues and health issues. And that's why the emerging takeaway movement actually has 2 strands to it. One part is to control the number of takeaways, and the second part is to improve the basic foods that they offer. When you get so many takeaways together, they create a number of environmental problems. There's the degradation of the town centre, there's litter, there's noise, there's often raucous behaviour late at night. And then there's the rats and all the other vermin who are attracted to the throwaway chicken bones and scraps of food that are left. We'll be hearing from Waltham Forest later today about their pioneering efforts to use planning controls to limit the number of hot food takeaways. Controlling the number of outlets is an important health policy too. In many countries for many years, restricting the number of outlets that can sell alcohol and tobacco has been an important part of public health policy. And now the same thing is being applied to takeaways. Just in time too. Recently, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence proposed using public health as a justification for restricting the sales of alcohol in establishments like this, and the same logic could apply to takeaways in places like that. Indeed, limiting the number of takeaways was an explicit policy of the previous government. They wanted to restrict the numbers on the school fringe. That's the donut of shops that surround most schools and which provide an escape route for pupils who, for whatever reason, don't like what the canteen has to offer. And as a result, they serve more calories to more pupils more frequently than the schools themselves do. And what they're being offered in local takeaways is of poor nutritional quality. London environmental health officers have just completed a survey showing that the most popular foods near schools are very high in fat and very high in salt. Controlling new takeaways is fine, but what do you do about the existing ones? Here, the takeaway movement is developing a very important strategy. Change the foods as well as changing the people. These are complementary strategies. One tries to change producers, the other changes consumers. One works on the supply side, the other works on demand. We need both. But we need to reinvigorate our attempt to reform the food that's on offer in takeaways. The logic of the pragmatic strategy is not to deny people doner kebabs, not to put carrot sticks into kebab houses. It's actually to make a healthier kebab. In going down this strategic path, the takeaway movement is following a successful example of the Food Standards Agencies and its program on the reduction in salt. What the FSA has done is bring together voluntarily all the food manufacturers in 82 categories of popular foods that contain a lot of salt. And then they've made collectively planned, small, incremental reductions in their salt content. This is already the most successful nutrition policy there has been in the United Kingdom since the Second World War. We've made most progress so far with the most important food, reformulating the ubiquitous chip. It involves chunkier chips, a healthier cooking oil, different temperatures, and using a salt shaker that has only 5 holes instead of 17. Now we're moving into the reform of the takeaway food offered by Indian and Chinese restaurants, and the other popular takeaways will follow shortly. What is emerging here is a pragmatic strategy. It's not a sudden shift to healthy eating. Rather, we start with the popular foods that people already eat, and then gradually we improve their nutrient profiles. If you follow this pragmatic strategy, you soon come to a decision point, to declare or not to declare. What I mean is, do you make a claim saying, this is the new healthy takeaway, or do you proceed quietly, unobtrusively, without explicit claims? If you follow the unobtrusive strategy, you make a series of small incremental changes so that established customers can't actually taste the difference. It's imperceptible to them. And it's invisible too if you don't actually make a claim saying this is healthy. Heinz has been following this unobtrusive strategy for a quarter of a century. Back in the 1980s, most of their products were among the highest in sugar and salt in their categories. Now, they're among the lowest. They're not perfect, but they're very much improved. And all of this has been done without ever making an explicit claim that they were healthy, and indeed, without any of their customers ever even noticing. So we know the unobtrusive strategy can work. It just takes a lot of time. The issue for the takeaway movement is, do you have the will and the funding to carry on for the time required? We certainly need to change. Since the 1980s, we've been educating and exhorting people to healthy eating. A few have got the message, but as a nation, we've just got fatter and fatter. We need to do something additional. We need to do something different. And the takeaway movement is developing a strategy that may provide just what we need. We've developed a pragmatic strategy that people in Britain might actually accept. There are no polysyllables, no propaganda, no puritanism, just pure pragmatic change, the gradual, unobtrusive reformulation of popular foods that people like to eat. If we can continue that strategy for the time ahead, the takeaway movement that we're celebrating here today can make a real impact on public health.